I assumed that not many people were going to try this game out, so I bought the Battle Pass and I played 10 hours of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodhunt so you don't have to. So here are my thoughts. So the game is a brand new Battle Royale exclusive to PlayStation 5 and PC, set in the World of Darkness world, specifically the Vampire the Masquerade world. It's set in Prague and overall it has a great setting. There are two things that make this game great, and the first thing is how fast paced it is. I'm not usually a fan of Battle Royales, but this hooked me. And then the second is the risk reward system, and I'll jump deeper into both of them points later. However, the game does have a few problems. Overall, it's slightly janky. It doesn't have the same polish as, say, Fortnite or Apex Legends. And I think the game has a few big problems that I will speak about at the end of the video. And then right at the end, I'll talk about whether or not I think this game will stick around or will it fail like many other online games. But no more farting around, let's get into the video. So this game was originally announced at a State of Play, so it is console exclusive to PlayStation 5. And it's set in Prague, and the setting is so good. You can see that it has a long-running franchise behind it, and I think it really helps bring me into the world. It's cool to play in a city like Prague because the architecture is different to what I'm used to seeing in games. And then combine that with the 3 different clans of characters, and you can see that the world is very well developed. So it's already off to a strong start just in its setting and presentation, but the gameplay is where this game shines. Firstly, the pace of the game is great because for someone like me, Battle Royales grew stale because of how much downtime there was in them, but this game just completely alleviates that. The movement speed is quite fast and you can climb anything in the game, giving a real sense of freedom. On top of that, there's a slide jump that everyone has to utilize to maneuver around the world, and the icing on the cake is the movement abilities that each class has. There's 4 different classes and 3 of them have 2 subclasses, and each different class has a movement ability. So my favorite movement ability is the stealth one, so you go invisible and you move quickly, and then people can't shoot you. You can also reload in this, so it's a great way to clear gaps between you and a person or to escape. And it's especially useful when you're climbing a building and you get shot at, and then you can turn invisible and then maneuver up the building and hopefully get away free. And when it comes to these abilities, this is where I got hooked. I love Overwatch, I put hundreds of hours into it, and one of the best things about Overwatch was learning people's abilities, cooldowns, so then like if you pushed a Tracer and she used all of her blinks, then you know, alright, this is the time to attack her. And it's the same here in this game. Eventually after a while I got to know other characters' abilities, and I almost tried to bait their abilities out and then push them so that I knew all of their abilities were on cooldown and they had no way of escaping, and then all it was a gunfight at that stage. At first I thought some skills like the immunity one was quite overpowered, but once I learned to bait them out, I loved every combat encounter. The second thing that makes a gameplay great is a risk reward system. So first there's NPCs littered around the place, and they give you passive boosts. So if you feed on an NPC, you might get, say, minus 10% cooldown on one of your abilities, which is great. However, there's a great risk reward here where if you feed on them, you're vulnerable for 5 seconds, meaning anyone can shoot you and almost kill you within that time. And then if another NPC sees you feeding on an NPC, or you shoot another NPC, you become visible on everybody's map for 60 seconds. It's only a minor part of the gameplay loop, but there's a lot of risk involved in it, and it extends to every single part of the game. So next there's shops around, gun shops, antique shops, and medical supplies. And every single one that you open, an alarm goes off, alerting everyone to where you are. The loot in them are usually really good weapons, especially good melee weapons in the antique shops, and then healing items in the medical shops. But everyone knows where you are, so you have to get out really quick, because most of the time when you run out, there's going to be someone waiting on the rooftop of a building getting ready to shoot you. And I saved the best thing about the risk reward system for last. When you kill someone, they're down for 15 or 20 seconds, and you can choose to feed on them, regaining full health and also killing them, but you're vulnerable for 5 seconds. But also, if you don't finish off your kill and their timer runs out, they get straight back up. So no longer can you snipe someone from the distance and just leave them there. You have to push your kills. And I think that's such a good system just to improve the pacing. As I said, the movement speed and maneuverability of each character is really fast, so the game has a nice pace to it. But then when you add something like that in, where you have to push your kills, the pacing is something I've never seen in a Battle Royale game. And then on top of that, to add to the pacing, you always get 1 life. So if you die, you get 1 respawn, so it's almost more like a deathmatch than it is a Battle Royale, which I fecking love because I just got fed up of Battle Royales, to be honest. I really enjoy all the weapons too. And a big bonus, shotguns aren't overpowered. In fact, I'd actually say they're kind of underpowered, which I think is brilliant because we've all played early Fortnite and got absolutely destroyed by shotguns. Now, unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and roses. To preface this, the devs seem to be very active on Twitter. They sent out a survey, which is great, and they're constantly active talking about the things they're fixing, which is a really big plus for a game like this. But I would get random connection issues. I would load into the game and I would load into the hub, and then I would get disconnected. And I'd get like 3 or 4 different errors every time I tried to reconnect. And after a couple of restarts, the game would just work. It's just a strange glitch. I don't understand it. And then on top of that, I'm not sure if this is down to people's individual internet or the servers, but at times enemies can just kind of warp and it's quite difficult to shoot them. And the biggest glitch, and they have acknowledged this on Twitter, is that the AK-47 will randomly not register with hits. I actually reported a few people thinking they were hackers because my bullets weren't registering, and it happened quite often. I actually think it happened live on stream, and I should have a few clips of it, but it was super frustrating. Another big problem that the game currently has is that the subclasses within the classes are indistinguishable, so it's difficult at first glance to realise what abilities a person has when you're chasing them. Like if you play Overwatch, you look at Tracer, you understand what her abilities are because she looks like Tracer. But here, the two Nosferatu look the exact same. There is a certain amount of jankiness as well. With everything being climbable, there's the odd times where I drop off a ledge wanting to drop, but then my character would climb back up onto the ledge, and this can be very frustrating when you're in an intense fight. And then another very minor gripe that can be easily fixed is that enemies have 200 HP. Once you take their 200 HP, they go down, but then they get 200 more HP, so you have to put like 2 mags into an enemy to finish them off without feeding on them. And I think it would be way better if, say, the enemies had 100 health when they're down, because having to put 2 clips into them is a bit ridiculous. And now the final question, will this game last? Well, it has a 25,000 24-hour peak on Steam, which is quite good, and in the past 24 hours of making this video, it had 12,000, so it actually has a decent player base, and it's quite active on Twitch too, which is good to see. If I could definitively answer this question though, I would be the most important person in an online development team, because there's so many games like Hyperscape and Lawbreakers that I personally really enjoyed, and they were well made games, especially Lawbreakers. That game was very mechanically deep, but I think that had like a 5,000 Steam peak and then it just died. It was a shame because I really enjoyed that game. So I would like to think that if the developers stay active, then this game should be able to keep up a healthy low player base, because I'm really enjoying it, and I will be absolutely gutted if this game died within a month or two. It's unique, it has a great setting, it's very fast paced, and I fucking love it, so I would recommend it to anybody that's interested. So I really appreciate you watching the video. I'm going to be streaming it sometime during the week, so keep an eye out for it. Check out my last video on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, follow me on Twitter, and join the Discord down below if you want to chat about all random stuff. I'll see you all on the next video. Goodbye.